What you been up to, Tammy? Did your engine explode yet?
Um, I thought I thought it was going to. Actually, no, I didn't. So, I'll start from the beginning kind of. So back in 2020 in Texas, my check engine light went on. We switched the spark plugs, we did what are they? The injectors, coil packs, injectors.
Okay.
And the code is a misfire cylinder 6. So I ran and then so then fast forward 2 years later, I still have the check engine light, but there's oil everywhere. So it was the oil filter housing adapter. So I
Yeah,
got
they
that.
go.
Yep, I got that replaced in Minnesota. And I don't know how long that had been leaking. Who knows? It could have been months because just a little bit of oil underneath your Jeep can look like massive amounts of oil.
Yeah, and
Um,
depending what climate you live in, it'll be there for a very long time.
yes,
It'll look a little less wet as it gets older, but yeah.
right. So anyway, fast forward to Cheyenne, and I work at TNT Customs. They did a compression test on my engine. It misfire cylinder 6. It had low compression, 58, I think, PSI. I think that's what it was. And it's supposed to
I'm not
be
sure.
like,
I'm not really an engine guy.
anyway, yeah, it was half of what the other cylinders were. So we got a remand engine. We replaced it. As soon as we replaced it, everything was ready to go. Daniel turns it on, and the check engine light was still there. And it was a P06DD code, which is the oil pressure sensor. So we traded the old one out, got a new one. It went off for a little bit. Then it came back on. Then it would go off and come back on. This has been going on since June. So we tried a new oil filter. We tried the new sensor. Daniel put in thicker oil, thinking maybe that would help.
Hmm?
That didn't work. And then the next option was to replace the oil filter housing unit because we thought maybe it was where that sensor plugs into the adapter.
Hmm.
But while he was in there, he looked at the knock sensor harness. So the knock sensor harness is a wiring harness that sits in the valley, I think you called it, of where you
Hmm.
place the oil filter housing. It
Yeah.
sits in there. So when your oil filter housing leaks, it leaks into that valley and goes down where the main seal is, and that's how it gets underneath. So anyway, that harness had been soaking in oil for who knows how long.
Yeah. And
And
heat and oil,
yes,
because it's right on top of your engine where it's hot.
exactly. So it started so it has the oil pressure sensor, the oil temperature sensor, and there are two knock sensors. And I just learned that the knock sensor senses vibrations in your engine, apparently. I think, if I'm right about that. But anyway, so
Yeah.
it's wrapped up in this cloth. I'm guessing it's a heat cloth maybe, and then tape. So he decided to go in and look at these wires, and they were, the wires have what do you call that plastic coating over them. Those had
The
all
insulation.
yeah, those all started to meld together. There were some points where they had deteriorated, and the wires were exposed, and they were sparking with each other. And
Okay.
they were shorting out the whole wire harness. So we just replaced the whole thing. Knock on wood, check engine light is off. So that's the story of the
That
engine.
that seems like a good bet, right? I mean,
Yeah.
electrical problems will cause all kinds of odd things.
And it was
Um,
random. The check engine light would go off, it would come
yeah.
back on. It would go off, it would come back on. So
Yeah, and
if
I
you have an oil filter housing adapter leak, just go ahead and replace. And Daniel thinks too, because they took out that wiring harness the first time to put in the new oil filter. They took it out again for my engine, and just the handling of it
yeah,
probably.
when you disturb wires, especially as a Jeep gets older, sometimes the insulation gets brittle.
Yep. Brittle was
Sometimes
the word he used. Yep.
just like disturbing them is enough
Yes.
to cause shorts and stuff. When I did all that work to the 4.0, when I took off the valve cover and replaced the oil pan and the gasket and the rear main seal, when I did the valve cover, there was a bunch of wiring that I had to kind of get out of the way, and I was super paranoid the whole time because every
Yep.
time you touch or move anything, I'm always worried that something's gonna,
Yep.
some insulation's gonna crack or whatever. Now, honestly, most of the time you're fine, but I'm hyper paranoid when I'm touching old work
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, cool
So
that
the yeah,
that you found what's hopefully the smoking gun and that
right.
that solves the problem.
So somebody did ask, well, could that have been your original? Was your engine really bad? Yes, the engine was really bad. It was issues in that cylinder 6. So this was just like another issue, which is not surprising when you have Jeeps. Um,
Nope, not surprising at all.
and it was not hard to get this wiring harness. It was retail, it's $113. Daniel said he could rewire the whole thing, and I'm like, oh, because there were probably 8 different wires. Yeah, 8 or 9, I think. So anyway, that was my whole engine story. So let's hope you could, yeah, videos is right. You could actually feel the cylinder misfiring. I was so used to it. To me, it was like, oh, this is how my Jeep is.
Did
But as
that
soon as,
did it give you like a weird idle or a weird vibration or
yeah, it was like you could like feel the Jeep doing this. The mechanics, the technicians immediately when they get my Jeep, they're like, "Oh yeah, you got a bad cylinder."
it's funny, someone who like knows what they're doing when they get in
Right.
there, they know exactly what the problem is the second they see it. It's someone who's good at their job, someone who's good at their craft
Right.
can do that. It's
Right.
pretty cool. Pretty cool.
So the other good news is I don't have tire pressure, TPMS, tire pressure monitors, right?
Mhm.
Is that what they're called? Yeah. Because I switched out to Colby valves, but those were with my Nexen tires, and for some reason I thought they were in these new tires that I had. And Daniel's like, "You don't, those are just regular valve stems." I'm like, "Oh, I totally forgot. My brain wasn't all with me way back there." So anyway, we ordered some tire pressure monitors, TPMS. Yeah.
Okay.
And we got them from Rock Auto. And apparently they're supposed to be just as good as buying the Jeep ones, but way less expensive because
Yeah, I
those things
get
are like $70 a piece
they
through
are.
Jeep.
They are, they're
Yeah.
not cheap. I get a lot of stuff from Rock Auto, and
Yeah.
generally, it's been good luck, knock on wood or whatever, but,
Right.
okay, anyway, we did have a news article. Did you wanna cover that quick, and then we'll move on?
Oh, I just wanted to mention, if you're into overlanding and if you're into, the Overland Expos, they are announcing a new Overland Expo starting in, March 15th and 16th in 2025, and it's in California, Costa Mesa, California. So now
California.
we have one on the East Coast, the West Coast, one's in Colorado, and one is in Arizona. So now we have one in California. So all those folks on the West Coast can go camping. There's exhibitors, they have education classes, and you can go to overlandexpo.com and then click on West in their tabs bar, and you can sign up for that. They can get kind of expensive, but there's so much information there, and roundtable discussions, expert presenters talking about overlanding. So that's in Costa Mesa, California.
Costa Mesa, California.
Yes. So there you go.
Alright.
News, quick and dirty.
Well, this has been a fun episode. I hope
Yes.
everybody has enjoyed me rattling on about axles.
But
I hope I got
axles,
everything right,
you know,
and nobody has anything to complain about.
it'll be fine.
It'll be
It'll be
fine.
fine.
Everything's fine.
So in next podcast, do we want to do that as our topic, or do we just want to
Yeah,
play
we
it
were
by
thinking about
ear?
talking about steel versus aluminum, so we're gonna have to come up with some topics around that. I have some opinions on steel versus aluminum.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you've got some working at TNT that'll help us out.
Hmm.
Elongate that conversation.
Right. We can talk about skid plates and wheels and
Yeah.
the new Jeep, what Jeep has done to the newer Jeeps to help with their emissions.
We could go on
And
about
yeah.
aluminum body panels and all that stuff.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think we have an episode there. We could
yep.
certainly talk about that.